evening, everybody. Dave Stevens here for Geary, Stein and Stevens, and ho, 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 happy holidays as we start. And you can see I've spent lots of money at the dollar store creating the background for my set here. Dave Stevens joining you for another amazing episode of Geary, Stein and Stevens. And, of course, Troy joining me from Duluth, Minnesota. Cold up there? Snow? What you guys got going up there, bud?
Yeah, it started to snow, so I'm a little depressed.
Well, let me fix your depression because, as many people out there have heard, we have an amazing guest tonight, and I'm excited. We've been doing this a while here, but I am so excited for tonight's guest. And this person doesn't need much of an introduction if you know the history of the '80s. This actress starred on the sitcom Too Close for Comfort with Ted Knight back in the day. And, of course, she became a big sex symbol and star and appeared in over 200 films and movies and television, The Love Boat, all kinds of, 80s type sitcoms. I think six years on six episodes of The Love Boat. But, yeah, that's right. Deborah is we've looked at through the credits and everything, but there's Lydia Cornell, that beautiful face, and it's so awesome to have you as a guest with us tonight, joining us, and you can hear that theme song in the background, and it's just great to have you here with us tonight for a little bit to talk about your career, your life, and of course things that you've done. So thank you for taking time from your super busy schedule. I know you're working on a lot of stuff, and just being a part of our world, it's so great for our listeners and our viewers. So Lydia Cornell is joining us from, are you in Los Angeles or where are you proper tonight?
I'm in LA, in northern LA. I'm in the hills near Santa Clarita and Simi Valley. There's so many parts to LA. Well, I love you guys. I love you, Dave. Thank you so much for having me on. And Geary.
Troy is, yeah.
Oh my God, Troy.
That's my last name.
Oh, that's your last name. Yes. Okay, obviously. Troy Geary.
It's great to have some superstar fans, and I know once we started putting out some of the commercials and promos that you were going to be a part of this, it merged our sportsish kind of world with all of your fans and everything, and everybody's like, who's this dude without legs that's a host? And, you're posting all these amazing things about the show. So, again, thank you for being a part of what we have tonight, and it's going to be an exciting night, and we're just going to kind of go down memory lane, talk a little bit about your career, what you did from a certain point, the highs and ups and downs and lows, and then the current cool stuff that you're working on. And like I said, when you do your research and you look at some of the accolades and things like that, but coming out of the gate, I mean, people don't realize the history of your family. I think you're the great granddaughter of Harriet Beecher Stowe. I mean, all these things that it's pretty impressive. I mean, do you still pinch yourself in this day and age of where you've been, where you've come from, and where you're going?
Only now, in retrospect, looking back, do you start to realize, wow, wait a minute. But it's quite a journey as a young woman in the 70s trying to get, knock on doors and get a job in Hollywood. So we can cover a little of that. But, my lucky break was meeting Natalie Wood. I walked into a restaurant in Hollywood my first day in town. I met Natalie Wood, Fred Astaire, Aaron Spelling, and Robert Wagner at the front booth of the table. And Natalie summoned me over to meet Aaron Spelling, and I got a job in the Love Boat the next day. So
and the rest is history. And like I said, from those early days where you were going to school, and we'll touch on some of the rock stars and superstars that you were working with, up at the cabin, I guess, and you might have some good stories. But Lydia, I'm going to address the elephant in the room just right out of the gate. For you as a Hollywood actress, a young, beautiful woman, I mean, we know what we've heard about with the Weinsteins and things like that, but for your career, given based on looks and all those kind of things, I mean, what was that like for you, to get into this business?
I was so lucky not to have had to do any of the casting couch. Although the first agent I met, I remember, I had a break. I graduated college, drove out with a U-Haul in the back of my car, and auditioned after I'd worked at Caribou Ranch in Colorado, which I was trying to break into the music business. So I crashed Billy Joel into a snowbank. I picked up Joni Mitchell at the airport, And I was around the Beach Boys and all these. I wanted to break into showbiz through the music business because I was a Bachelor of Science degree in business at University of Colorado, and I figured, how do you get to Hollywood from here? But when I finally got out to Hollywood, I worked for Epic Records briefly. Those are the years of crazy people everywhere. The 80s were very over-sexualized. But I really avoided being hit on and having to, I never would have done that anyway. And I refused to do any nudity for anything any roles. But one of the first meetings I had with an agent at a big agency, he called me in and he stood up and he dropped his pants completely naked. And I twirled away giggling as if not to embarrass him and just said, I don't feel well. I need to use the restroom. And I ran away because that was the time where you didn't want to offend men. I'm not kidding. It was like we'd heard these stories and it was pretty prevalent back then that it was just par for the course, in the late 70s and the 80s.
Well, was it tough for you, though? I mean, given the gifts that you have on the outside and the gifts that you have at the inside, that suddenly this was the era of Suzanne Summers and Farrah Fawcett, and they kind of just lumped you into that. Again, not looking at you for your abilities, but let's get her in a bikini. Let's get her in this. Let's exploit her, which now we look back and go, oh my God, how did we get to that point? And I know it's part of the 50s and 60s mentalities of the men, but it's gotta have been tough for you trying to be a serious actress, and they're going, hey, in this scene you're going to wear a bikini, and in this thing we're going to have you on the Love Boat, talking about these girls posing, and you're going to be in a bikini, and all these kind of things. That it's like, how did you balance that as an actress?
I don't know. I mean, I was immediately cast. The first Love Boat I had, that Aaron Spelling sent me in to meet Kathy Henderson, the head of casting. He had Starsky and Hutch, Charlie's Angels, and Love Boat on the air at the time. Oh, yeah, Charlie's Angels. So I go in, I read for a Love Boat, and the next day I'm on the set in a bikini, and I have one line, and I'm playing shuffleboard, and I have to have a martini, shuffleboard stick, and say my line. I was so nervous. And they put too much makeup on, and I'm literally, this isn't the episode. It was really a long ago episode. And Audrey Meadows was in that episode, which is serendipitous, by the way. And so I suddenly I looked right in the camera and said my line, and the director goes, hey, darling, hey, bimbo. I don't think he said bimbo. You don't look in the camera. I was so green and new in the industry. But you're just naked. It's just like you have to be perfect. You have to be slim. And luckily I had a very thin body at the time. I mean, you can't stay that way forever. But I thought that was the industry. I didn't think twice about it. But I had big dreams because in high school, I was in every play you could name. And I was in Othello, actually as a torchbearer. My best friend in high school was a guy named Monroe. And they named Monroe after him, unbeknownst to him, because he passed away before he knew. And we auditioned for Othello, and I wanted the part of Desdemona. And instead, the hair cheerleader got that part. But I played one of the torchbearers because I had bad skin. I had acne in high school. So we had deep sideburns. I played a guy holding a torch. we were just like these nerdy drama club kids. And then I was in Enemy of the People. I played the lead in that in the theater. And Monroe played Aslickson. So he played my father, actually. So you grow up having these dreams because you're creative. I was a very creative child, and I wanted to act and write and create my own shows, and I had my own theater in the backyard. And then you come to Hollywood and they go, no, you're a type. You're just that type. You're the Suzanne Summers type, the Farrah Fawcett type. So then on my own show, and the audition was so funny. I got the part after 400 girls. You want me to tell you the audition story?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay,
go for it.
I was the 400th girl they saw, and I was late to the audition, and it was raining that day. And my hair was wet and bedraggled. I took a bus to get there. It was the third audition I've ever had in my life. And I come in, and the secretary goes, I'm sorry, you're too late. They've seen the last girl. And I was starting to cry. And I leave, it was Metro Media Studios near KTLA, and Arnie Sultan comes out And he created Get Smart with Mel Brooks. He was the head writer. He looks at me and he goes, she looks the part. Let her read. She's the last girl we're going to see. This is literally a true story. I go in and there's Carsey Warner. There's Tom Warner, head of the ABC development guy. I read my part with Arnie Sultan. And there's a line that says, it says, Sarah gives Dad a raspberry. So in the script, I do my line and it says, in case you haven't noticed, we're two very sophisticated young women. And I pick up this imaginary raspberry and I go, so there. And Arnie goes, what the hell are you handing me here? And I go, I'm giving you a raspberry. And the whole room exploded with laughter. And they go, what planet are you from? And I think I said Texas. And they go, you don't know what a raspberry is? A showbiz raspberry? It's a Bronx cheer. So I'm not going to do it right now. You can do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they go, can you be at the network tomorrow morning at, 10 a.m.? And then we have 5 girls for the callback. And I went, sure. I was just stunned and embarrassed. They thought I was an idiot. And so it was these are Brooklyn TV writers. Comedy is, you're from back east, right?
I'm from Arizona, but he's in the Midwest, so somewhat close.
Okay. So here I'm very, very naive. They wanted a naive, virginal Sarah Rush. So the next day, I come in wearing a virginal white flowered dress, no cleavage. All the other girls are wearing hooker outfits, and their boobs are hanging out, and like it's overly overdone, And I'm like a virgin. And I read with Ted Knight in front of the head of the ABC network, Tony Thomopoulos, up at the executive offices. And they were laughing. It was bizarre. It was like I just read, and everything I did, they laughed at. And Arnie said to me at the end of it all, he goes, we're gonna tell you this right now. You got the part. And we'll call your agent right now. We never do this with an actor. We're telling you first. And then Deborah was standing over off set. I read with Deborah von Valkenburg, who plays my sister. She'd already been cast. And she comes up to me and she goes, what's your real name, your name again? I said, Lydia Cornell. It's a weird, I was always embarrassed by my Russian name because it was so hard to pronounce. And she says, well, I worked for a Gregory Kornilov in New York City, but he's now in Holland and in the shipping industry. Actually, he had passed away. And I said, that's my father. So,
Wow.
My sister, out of 10 million people in New York City, she worked for my dad in New York City, as a temp. And she worked for him for 3 years, television back and forth. And I go, I call that a God shot, a small G, like a coincidence that's too uncanny to be random.
Well, that is wild. And I mean, just think about the odds of that is just, wow, that's just crazy. So,
and we're best friends today. We're still best friends. I wrote a movie that she starred in with me. We co-starred as sisters again.
That was great to see. It's great. And as we continue our journey, we are with the great legendary actress Lydia Cornell.
Thank you.
That was a great first segment. While she gets adjusted, we're going to pay some bills. We'll be back here in just a couple of minutes, so don't go away. Geary, Stein, and Stevens on one of my favorite shows we've ever done. Stick with us.
Hi again, everybody. Dave Stevens from the Geary, Stein, and Stevens Show for Manscaped here at the home of the Philadelphia Eagles. And why am I on the turf? Well, because Manscaped really helps us groom that turf. The stuff down below, when you use all the Manscaped products, all the amazing Manscaped products that they have to groom, to shave, to keep clean, to smell good, with the shampoos, the conditioners, the deodorants, the lip balm, all of the great stuff. Manscaped has great products, not only for down below, but for all of the stuff up above, too. And if you go to the website, manscaped.com, and type in the show code GSS Show, you get 20% off of your order, and you'll be able to have the best grooming materials that money can buy. So I use the Manscaped products every time I'm at a professional sporting event, and it makes me look great to get great locker room interviews, and, of course, to continue to use the great Manscaped products. That's manscaped.com. Type in the show code GSS Show for 20% off. You'll look good. I look good. I smell good because I use Manscaped.
And we are so excited now that you can see Geary, Stein, and Stevens on your home TV. That's right, we are streaming now. So if you're sitting around and you're working out or you got your buddies with you or whatever, all you have to do is tune in to Geary, Stein, and Stevens on yourhometv.com. That's that simple. You can stream our shows. You can see the ones we've done with Linda Cohn. You can see the ones with Lee Steinberg. But hey, everybody is going to be wanting to watch our guest tonight because she's a legend. She is a superstar, and we are so glad that Lydia Cornell will now be a part of our continuing family of the Geary, Stein, and Stevens show. So make sure you go to yourhometv.com, and Jason won't be there, but you can, of course, see our great shows and see some of our best of. So I'm still speechless, so I'm going to sit back and let Troy ask you a couple of questions. Troy?
Sorry, I was muted there. What is your favorite memory of Ted Knight, either on or off camera, that you can recall, or a story?
First of all, I loved him. We had a love-hate relationship, though. But ABC used me as a sex symbol. In those days, I guess there were these... Every show had to have a sex symbol. And you don't have the sex symbol pictures, which is fine, which is good. But they made posters of me to promote the show. And then Ted would get mad. He would, I would come to work and I'd be on the cover of a magazine and with my bikini. And he'd go, I'm the star of the show. And there was a little bit of an edge to him, but then he would laugh. We'd laugh it off, Well, one time the whole cast went on the Merv Griffin show. And Audrey Meadows played my grandmother. She was on The Honeymooners. She was Jackie Gleason's wife on The Honeymooners. And we were all as a family on the show. And there's Ted, Nancy, and Audrey, and Jim. They've all been interviewed. I'm in the green room with Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta because they're coming out for Grease. And I'm backstage waiting to go on as the last, guest. Deborah's already gone on. And Deborah's sitting there with Merv. And Merv says to Deborah, asks Deborah a question. He goes, what is Ted Knight really like? And Deborah says, she gets really nervous. We're both really nervous all the time. We can't do talk shows. She said, well, he's kind of a kinky dad. And so Merv goes, what? And he goes, we're going to cut to a commercial break and bring out the youngest member of the Rush family, Lydia Cornell, to answer that question. What does Deborah mean by kinky? So they left it on me to answer. Deborah just said that as a joke. I come out and I'm like in my first talk show ever. And I sit down and I'm so nervous. And then Merv says, what did Deborah mean by Ted is kinky? Or Henry, Ted Knight is kinky. And I tried to be funny. And the worst thing you can do is make up a story. And I said, well, he likes to pop our bra straps and look down our blouses and lift up our skirts now. And and throw spitwads into our bra. I was embellishing this ridiculous. And the truth is, we did pranks around the set, all of us. We all did little silly things like pinched each other on the butt. But believe me, there was nothing like the Me Too, nothing with Ted Knight. He was as clean as they come. And I was just trying to be funny. And all I heard was dead silence. And I looked down and I saw this blood-curdling look on Ted's face, like, what? And there was like a gasp in the audience. I mean, nobody was laughing. I saw Ted's wife on the front row going, and I'm like, all I remember is I think I blacked out. Deborah and I were holding hands and we started to pass out. And all I know next is Merv went, oh, well, we're going to cut that tape. So after it ended, we all go outside to wait for our cars. And Ted's standing there like this. He goes, what was that about? And we just were like crying. We were literally crying. We went home together, spent the night together, and cried all night worried. Because Ted could be kind of harsh at times. He was like a real dad,
And he was well established, with I'm Ted Knight and this is the news and hello, Mary. And, it's got to be intimidating working with a legend like that. And then, not being able to.
He won 6 Emmy Awards. He's like a real legend, Yeah.
Well, you're a legend. I mean, you're Little Miss Cotton. So, I mean, you're a legend, right? Like, I did my homework. I know. So, do you still have that trophy?
First, did you see the spit take I almost did? I went, that taught me to do a spit take, an official spit take. That's comedy gold.
Get your coffee cup ready because since this is somewhat of a sports-based show, of course, I've got to bring out some sports, and of course, we'd have to, I got to bring out. I think it was your appearance. I think it was season 11 of Battle of the Network Stars. I'm sorry about the quality, but here's Howard Cosell talking about you and like you're an athlete, and then all the people there to see the people you work with. But then your moment was getting in this, and you had the lead, and then suddenly something happened where you just figured out you were going to go in the other lanes, and you went from worst to first. Luckily, didn't matter about in the ratings because you had 25 million viewers watching you. But what was like that? To be a part of those fun things where you got Robert Conrad and all these people taking it serious, and them expecting you to catch footballs and be athletes. I mean, it was crazy.
Can you hear me laughing? Oh my God!
Yes.
I have never been so embarrassed in my life. It was the most. Howard
You have your clothes on. Your clothes are on, right? So it's okay.
That was the most. Okay, Howard Cosell never gave up. Cornell cannot turn the kayak around. Cornell. It was the most humiliating day of my life. And William Shatner was the team captain. He just stood there. He wouldn't get wet. And Joan Collins from Dynasty, she wouldn't get wet. So Heather Thomas and I had to do all the water sports and get dunked, and oh my God, it was so embarrassing.
Yeah, you talk about exploitation in those days. It was like, and I'm sitting here watching all the men, Robert Conrad and these guys in Speedos. I'm like, I didn't want to see that. Like, who needed to see that in those days? You got Trapper John, you got all these Purnell Robert. I'm like, man, way too much exposure.
Oh, Dave, you are so funny. Oh my God, that is so. I'm so glad you showed that clip because no one believes it exists. I always try to hide it. I pretend like.
Yeah.
I tried to get rid of it once. It was a horrifying. It was really stressful. You paid a lot of money to run around like an idiot, and in those days, it felt.
In those days, you needed those checks, though. Those checks actually helped you. It's like the baseball players that weren't getting those multi-million-dollar a year checks. It's like those checks. It's like, hey, here's Christmas presents. Let me pay my agent. Here's my Botox. So
your agent, your agent, your manager, they all take. My manager was the manager of Michael J. Fox. And when I first met them, they were handling him, and he was playing a 12-year-old on Palmerstown, USA, but he was 21. So it was like, yeah, we all had to pay our managers 20% and our business manager 5% and our agent 10%. So it's a lot goes out the window. But the 80s were the heyday of television. It's almost like we were having fun back then. Even Love Boat was fun because it was a party. Everyone got together. A lot of celebrities got to meet each other and play all day long. I loved it. Although I wasn't conscious through most of the 80s, but it was definitely fun. I can't hear anybody.
Oh, no, we're here. Troy, you there? I think we're having some goblins with Troy, but we
cold.
I know. I'm not sure, but for our listeners and our viewers and everybody out there, Troy Geary is. I think he says he's muted, but he's not muted. But
there I am.
There you go. Yeah, I don't know what it was.
All right. Well, besides Too Close to Comfort, what was your favorite acting role?
I think Curb Your Enthusiasm, working with Larry David, because he wrote and created Seinfeld, and the character of George is based on Larry. But I got to do improv with Larry, and totally made it up. But the audition was so stressful. I went in and he has a lot of celebrities do guest spots or tiny bit parts, I went in and I read with him, and you have to make up your own lines. Improv means the actor creates their own lines out of thin air. So the only thing I had was a little piece of paper. It said, Larry comes in to buy a bra for his maid. And so I said, is she, my improv audition was like this. Is she a cantaloupe or a watermelon? Or watermelon? What size is she? And he loved that. And he howled with laughter, and he hired me for the role the next day. So then we did that. inside a real Victoria's Secret store. And oddly enough, I write comedy. So one of the log lines of my script I was writing was, all human suffering is caused by Victoria's Secret. But very lucky I get called in to do this part as a Victoria's Secret saleswoman. I thought, oh, it's perfect. It's a god shot, a coinkydink, right? And in that episode is the only other Lydia I've ever met in Hollywood. So those are two matchups that I thought were interesting.
You don't remember Lydia, the tattooed lady from Groucho? Like, Lydia, the tattooed lady. Yeah.
Thank you. I love that. And my actor Arnie Sultan used to sing that to me on the set all the time. So it was like a running gag. Yeah. But Larry David was fun. And then we did the improv, and I saw him touching the bra. Like, he goes, "Ooh, this feels really nice." And I went, "Feel free to go try it on." And he loved that I did that to him. So we cut out all the other stuff we'd done, and he just used those few lines, you know.
Do you think, though, it shocks others that you have these chops for acting and improv and all that? Because, again, they know you from bikinis and all that, and you're not stereotyped because you do have talent.
Oddly enough, you know, it takes so much to break the typecasting. I dyed my hair dark to do Full House. I speak Spanish fluently. Viví en El Paso, Texas, Santa Juárez, México, por 13 años, acá aprendí español. I love to show off a little Spanish wherever I go.
Just a little.
No, but I was born on the border of El Paso, and I learned Spanish from birth. Literally, I love the Spanish language, but I never get to use it. So I dyed my hair dark. I played DJ Spanish teacher on Full House, and then I got to do Quantum Leap as a brunette, as a pregnant pilot's wife in the 50s, the pilot for Quantum Leap. And I played I tried to get back into theater. I love theater. But you know what? I was going through a lot. I started writing. I wrote a big book on Joseph Stalin, the Trotsky assassination. I started writing that book before I got the series. So I went back to becoming a writer in order to create my own work, to write my own scripts.
And like we talked about with you and Deborah in this movie, so.
Yeah, exactly. Venus.
And what's it like to work with someone like that you worked with every day, and then 30 years, some odd later, you guys are back together? I mean, did it just seem like no time had passed?
First of all, she is the best actress I've ever worked with in my life. She is not just, believe it or not, she was the straight man in our show, and I was the dumb blonde. But she is really gifted. And she came over to my house at 3 a.m. The director of my movie is 21 years old, and we were in our 40s or 50s at the time when we did that movie. And we played sisters again, fighting Lexi and Zoe. And the director said, "You got to cut 10 pages out of the script. We're shooting at dawn." I went, "I can't cut 10 pages out of the script." Deborah sat down with me, and we cut all the things that weren't important. We memorized it like guerrilla filmmakers, and we shot with a one handheld camera and no light that morning, and it was perfect because of her. And she's so funny. There's scenes you haven't seen yet in that movie that I've written the larger script. It's about a plot to keep us thin and insecure. A plot to keep women, a real plot. You know, corporate conspiracy by a company called Venus. And it's got a lot of wacky, wild stuff in it. I want to get a bunch of comedians together to do this movie.
I think you need a legless leading man to be a part of that too now. So, yeah.
You could be the bad guy who runs the corporation.
Yeah. Yes. I'm evil. Well, speaking of evil, we've got to pay some more bills by the man. The man makes us do that because that's why we're here. So when we come back, we'll put a bow on this beautiful show that we've done. We'll find out what Lydia's working on, what's going on in the future, and is there a possible Too Close for Comfort reboot being worked on? So don't go away. Stay tuned. Geary, Stein, and Stevens. Troy's still with us. Stay tuned.
Hi again, everybody. Dave Stevens from the Geary, Stein, and Stevens Show. And, you know, I'm on the road a lot covering professional teams like the Philadelphia Eagles here in this beautiful stadium, but I don't have a lot of time to eat. What I do use, though, is Athletic Greens 1. It's a great supplement that you can use every day to get that nutrition that you're missing. And you know what? If you're drinking those energy drinks, those monster drinks, those add up where this costs just $3 a day. It's got over 75 vitamins and nutrients in it that it would take you so many pills and bottles to take, but it's all right here. You just put a couple of scoops in with the water, you mix it up with either lemon juice or what I like to use with frozen fruit. It tastes great. It makes you feel good. And, of course, it is going to make you live life better. So, Athletic Greens 1. If you want more information, go to athleticgreens.com/GSS. They'll give you a year's supply of vitamin D if you go to that website. So continue to follow Steven Stein and Geary, or Geary, Stein and Stevens, wherever you go. But make sure you're taking Athletic Greens 1.
Hey everybody, do you want 20% off the world's softest, comfiest, best fitting men's clothes? I mean, hey, they make me look good too, and I like to dance in them too, but hey, that is because these are Fresh Clean Tees. Join the Fresh Clean Tees t-shirt club, 20% off of your order. You'll look good, you get designer prices without paying ridiculous prices. Go to freshcleanthreads.com, use our special code GSS Show for 20% off your order. Your perfect fits awaits, and that is because it looks so good when you wear them, and you can see that I'm here in my Fresh Clean Threads that, I look good. And again, I thank our sponsors for being a part of that. And we are here for the home stretch of our show tonight. Geary, Stein, and Stevens. We've had Lydia Cornell joining us, and it's been so awesome to just pick your brain and have you be a part of us, telling us, some amazing memories, putting you on the spot. But I'm going to put you on the spot too, because last night I was in New York, and I kind of joined your world because I've been a sports guy doing interviews and all this kind of stuff. And last night I had this amazing opportunity to be a part of this new growing thing that Netflix is trying to do to give people opportunities with disabilities to work with, mainstream producers and directors and things like that. And so last night I was in New York performing, reading, having some parts, and again, just kind of doing some stuff. You can listen in for a second.
You can do this. Just start painting.
The Owen Saunders and what's that? The sculpture miraculously comes to life and shines in.
Every block of stone has a statue inside of it. It's the task of the sculptor to discover it. The idea is locked inside. All you have to do is remove the excess stone.
So that was pretty much my Super Mario impression last night, but it was so much fun. And again, I know Lydia, I want to talk about your experience of being a parent to a child with a disability. I know it really is something that you talk about. You've championed, you want equal opportunity for those that have disabilities to be actors and writers and producers. But tell us a little bit about what you went through. I'm a parent with a disability. You're a parent with a child with a disability, and what those challenges were like on both sides for you.
Unmute there. Okay. First of all, I have to ask you: Are you a trained actor? Because you're pretty good, Dave.
No, just life experiences. I'm a ham. When there's a microphone, I like a microphone. It's very comfortable. I've always said if the world is going to stare at me, I might as well give them a show. And so, when you start things and now I get to do comedy, and I can talk about that, my penis touches the ground when I walk and make people laugh by that, those kind of things that they're not expecting. But, in all seriousness, trying to bring it back for you, I can make fun of myself. You can make fun of me, if we know each other. And I'm sure you were able to tease your stepchildren and talk about their struggles.
Actually, how I always introduce my sons, and I don't usually talk about Kevin, my stepson, because he doesn't like it. But here's how I usually start with a stand-up line. I raised 3 boys and 2 dogs, including my husband, and they all went through puberty at the same time. What? And people go, if you use that joke again. I've never used it publicly yet, but I keep practicing on people and they laugh. No, my stepson, Kevin, was born with brittle bone disease, osteogenesis imperfecta. When I met him, he was 4 years old. He moved into my life at the age of 4. He had a cast on one leg and a broken collarbone. When he was an infant, apparently a dog had rolled over on him, and every bone in his body had been broken or crushed, most of the bones. And the parents were accused, his parents, my husband at the time, later my husband, was accused of abusing him, and they didn't know it was osteogenesis until it was diagnosed. So this is a lot of people suffer from this. The movie Unbreakable was about brittle bone disease, and Kevin, his entire life, I raised him from 4 till 16, and we divorced, and we're still. I just talked to him yesterday. We're very close still. He's 27 now. He's tall and gangly and perfect. He does have, it looks like his elbows are installed backwards. And when he was 13, he couldn't touch his chin. So I had to button his buttons for him, and he was going through puberty, and it was a really hard time in life for him because he was liking girls, and he didn't want anyone to know. You know, he wasn't someone who wanted to join the club of, I'm going to talk about my disability. And I don't like that word myself. He's an amazing human being. He's got more, you know, he's a scuba diver. And he lives in the Keys right now, and he teaches scuba diving. And he's like one of the most athletic kids I've ever known. And he's a musician, and he's brilliant. But raising him, we had a lot of trials, and he was always breaking his. I remember one time he fell off an 8-foot ladder, and I come running out, and I don't ever want to panic. I have a way of, it's a form of prayer where I think the right thoughts about someone. And I immediately saw him falling on a bed of clouds instead of on the heart. I don't want to scream. So I saw him falling, and I ran out toward him in slow motion, and I just picked him up. He was crying and screaming, and he goes, I broke my ribs. And I picked him up, and I took him in the backyard, put him in the jacuzzi, called the doctor. The next day we went to an orthopedic. Well, actually went in for x-rays that night. And while he's on the table moaning and groaning and going, I know I broke my ribs again. I know I broke my collarbone. And I went, I don't think so. And I started to radiate love. Just prayer to me is the invisible transfer of love to another. Healing thoughts. This is going to sound crazy to you maybe, but I know that there's a lot of power in our thoughts. And I just kept radiating and reflecting love back to him. And he was moaning and groaning, and the x-ray technician or the doctor comes in and says, good news, you don't have a bruise, sprain, or a break. And Kevin jumped off the table and he goes, I'm fine. So we carry a lot of fear and emotional baggage. And we kind of make ourselves sick at times. You know, they've proven, a genetic scientist told me that 89% of all disease is stress related. Starts with stress. So if you can unthink and not panic and not scare everyone to death. You know, I have a friend whose kids have asthma, and she was always scaring them to death. Oh my God. Instead of that, just go, hey, you know, it's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. Breathe. You know, a lot of it's emotional. I mean, he came through a lot of really scary things in life, and he's fine.
But the good thing is, as a parent, I think you also learn, and I think that's what's tough as a parent with a child with a disability. You have to let them fall. You have to let them fail, because we give participation trophies in life, and life is win and lose. And so sometimes the parents they want to hold on to those reins, and it's a cruel world. But, you know, luckily I'm so close to the ground, when I fall, I just get back up. I'm like a weeble. But, you know, was that tough for you to just let them go and let them fall and let them fail and get cut and fall and get beat up?
Yes, but he was a very athletic kid. His dad was overly concerned about him too. We were really protective. My other son, Jack, my biological child, they all met when they were 4 and 5 years old. They grew up together. They loved each other. They rough and tumble. They built the Christmas fort, a blanket fort that went throughout the whole house. And they did this thing where they built these, they put pillows with duct tape and wastebaskets on their backs. And they played basketball, and they bumped like sumo wrestlers, bumping into each other, pillow stomachs. They had so many cute things they did. And we had a pool in the backyard, luckily. So Kevin could swim a lot. He needed to be in the water. So, you know, the worst thing they did, though, is that we had a roof above my office, and they'd have all the kids come over and run on the roof and jump from the roof into the pool. Like a herd of elephants, I'd hear them, and I go, no, you can't do this. I couldn't stop them. There's a certain point, teenagers are not nice people. So you really can't prevent them from doing crazy things. But you have to give some of it up to the universe and let go and let God take care of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have a question about your directing. You won a lot of awards in the last couple of years directing. Is that something you always wanted to do?
I haven't won a lot of awards, but I did win actually about 7 awards for that one film, which I love.
Well, that's quite a bit.
Thank you so much. It was so much fun. And a friend of mine said, you should direct this movie, and it was a short little mafia movie It wasn't meant to be a mafia movie, but I instilled those ideas in the script, and I thought it's about a CEO having a conflict with somebody, and you don't know who that is until the end of the movie. So I decided to put it at Carmine's restaurant, which is where Frank Sinatra had shot bullet holes in the ceiling. And he's sitting in the middle of the restaurant, and important people who have a lot of money and power don't like sitting with their backs to people. So I created this whole thing about, directing means you come up with the ideas and the tone of the movie. And so I placed him in the middle of the restaurant. He was paranoid about who's behind him. So I had him pick up, this just came to me out of the thin air, a spoon, a really shiny spoon so he could see what's behind him. And behind him, I placed a great looking, real Italian actor who had this incredible face. And so you build this ominous tone. Yeah, I had a great time in directing that movie. It was a lot of fun, and it has a really funny twist ending. I'd love to direct more, but I'm writing right now, and I have to do one thing at a time. Finish the book.
And I know we talk about that. You're procrastinating when we're talking and things like that. So tell us about what you can about this book. Is it a tell-all? Where is it coming from? What are we going to find out? And
I wrote it. I started writing comedy. Everything in my life became funny once I got sober 28 years ago. I had a catastrophic crash and burn, and then a spiritual awakening. In one day, my entire life shift changed. That's why I believe there's something more in the universe than what you can see physically. Like, this isn't all there is, this thing.
Well, you lost your brother. You went through so much losing your brother and everything like that. I mean, for you to continue this comeback is, that's in itself is amazing.
Thank you. But I think a lot of actors, for some reason, showbiz, I have a whole theory about why we all come to Hollywood. A lot of people are seeking love, unconditional love from masses of people. It's a very narcissistic industry. But when you don't get enough love at home, I came here seeking the adoration of strangers. I had a very abusive childhood, although I've forgiven my parent tenfold. And we've had this beautiful healing. Right before my mother died, we had this amazing healing, and we had a healing throughout all the years. But showbiz is like a fantasy land. You come here thinking, I'll create my own world. And a lot of actors aren't very sane, normal people, I have to say. It's weird to think you want to be out there doing all these things. The acting craft alone is beautiful. The people you meet here are wonderful. The creative people I want to work with. I want to create cool projects that change lives. That's a great motivation.
And speaking of these projects you're talking about, I know I've heard some interviews and I've seen it, and I know you're still close to a lot of your ex-cast members. So, yeah. I know you've written a script kind of and changed some things, and with Jim J and Deborah. So what's the status, and where can we, where can we see this soon?
Well, okay. So my boyfriend and I he wrote Seinfeld. He's won some Writers Guild Awards and Emmy nominations for Seinfeld and different TV shows. So we came up with a really funny reboot idea, and we're going to pitch it pretty soon, because right now, comedy, they're buying serial killer shows. Reboots are a little bit on the waning end because Saved by the Bell was canceled. But we're going to pitch it probably in the spring. And it's a wacky, I can't tell you the idea yet, but it's different. But it does involve the original cast. We're all ready. We all signed, Nancy's available. I went and had lunch with her. She looks great. She's excited. Deborah, Jim, and myself. And then we have a baby Andrew, who's now grown. But it's really going to be fun. So I hope we get it going. It's not my baby. My baby is the book. It's called Hiding My Brain in My Bra. And at first, when I first wrote the book, it was all these funny things that happened in life with some tragedy. But everything became too funny. And my agent said, your book's too funny. So that began after my mother died in April 2021. I found letters she wrote me, and I found the linear story, and now it's got all the showbiz stories in it too. A lot of juicy, fun showbiz stories. It's about finding yourself in a pornographic world, in a shallow place like LA, finding true meaning, finding a way to live and navigate this life without letting go of your fears and your ego and finding a higher purpose.
Before we let you go, I just wondered if you had one or two quick stories of, again, when you do your research and you find out all of the musicians who are around giving food to Billy Joel and all these people, and then becoming a manager or road manager and all these things. Do you have a quick story of one of those guys that just, was very inspiring to you or motivated you, or just, this guy didn't like pickles on his sandwich and he screamed at me when I brought it, or something stupid like that?
Oh my, tons of stories like that. Let me see. With Joni Mitchell. Well, Billy Joel, I picked him up at the airport in the snow in a 4-wheel drive Suburban. I volunteered for everything, and I didn't know how to drive a 4-wheel drive, but I said, I'll do it. And I wanted to be ranch photographer too. And every picture I took of Joni Mitchell and the Beach Boys turned out blurry. I have those pictures, by the way. I will send you one later.
You should do a cocktail book or something like that, right? With all your pictures.
Yes, I should. But anyway, Joni Mitchell, I picked her up at the airport with Neil Young and Jack Nietzsche. Jack Nietzsche's a movie guy. And Henry Diltz, the rock and roll photographer. And Joni puts her guitar over there and moves right next to me. And here I'm like in love with her from the album Blue in college. You're too young, you don't know the album, but oh my God, it was like my icon is touching my knee. And so I had lots of fun stuff like that. I did date Dennis Wilson, the Beach Boy, before he passed away.
You were around a lot of people that drowned with you and Natalie Wood and Dennis Wilson. I mean, should I go swimming with you?
Thanks a lot. That's I never. Yeah, come in. No.
Well, if I didn't have arms, if I had no arms and no legs, they'd just call me Bob. So I don't know if I could, do that. So, but Lydia, it's been so great, you spending your time with us, your precious time, us keeping away from your writing. And I can't wait to see what this is and your projects coming up. And again, all of the things we get to watch you every day on Antenna TV and Tubi and all these kind of things. I mean, what lens do you have, by the way? I mean, people can Google your age. I'm not going to say it, but is this, you have like this 40-year-old filter on your camera because what's your secret? Like,
it's lights. I have a really cheap little light right here, and I don't believe in age. I don't believe in sickness, age, or anything. I have a metaphysical way of living. I stopped drinking and smoking after I quit drinking. I began smoking like a maniac, and then I gave that up. I surrendered it. I just gave it up. It's a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual idea of wearing the world as a loose garment. Don't get attached to anything. Don't get too attached to fear, blame, anger. Let it go and love. Love everything. Pour love on everything. Forgive everyone. It's hard, believe me. I mean, I don't succeed often, and also it is just all smoke and mirrors. It really is just the good lighting, I think.
Damn good mirrors.
Well, you sound the same like you did 30 years ago, so that's awesome.
Oh, thank you. I love you guys. So
no, it's great.
Backwards. We're all backwards.
But look, if I put these up, it's like, what year is this? What year is this? I can't tell if that's the 90s, 2000s. I mean, it's been great. So thank you so much, Lydia, for being a part of our show. My favorite all-time show. I'm just going to say it right now. It's out there. So thank you for being a part of this and for humoring this old guy that has been in love with you since I was a little kid. And, it's great to have you. And Troy, I mean, when he found out, all his friends were hitting him up. So this is one we're going to keep in the banks, and we'll just let it run in perpetuity forever and ever. So where can people follow you? I know it's lydiacornell.com, but is there more things that can see you and hear from you and your podcast and all those kind of things?
Oh, yeah. I have a mental health podcast called God Shots, and it's not religious. The word God Shots is an amazing synchronicity. It's about synchronicity and those glimmers of hope and beautiful coincidences that I've had millions of these. They're very bizarre. But we have all these people on. I'd like to have you on, by the way, because God Shots is about hope. So we have really a lot of fun. I like to do comedy all the time. It's not always the cleanest show in the world either. So that's.
You work with Kelsey Grammer, so I mean, holy cow! I mean, it doesn't get any raunchier than that, right?
Yeah, and Bob Saget.
By the way, that's a whole other story. I wrote a 12-episode crimedy about I accidentally moved my stalker into the house. Kelsey and I had the same stalker, that's another whole story, which we're going to produce, I hope. But anyway, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube.
And she pays attention to you. So it's not like she has time to get to every one of you. But if you say something nice, chances are she's going to respond. So thank you, Lydia, so much for your time. Thank you. I don't even know where to go after this. So, but continue to follow Geary, Stein, and Stevens on all social media platforms, wherever you can watch podcasts or hear podcasts. I'm going to listen to this one over and over again and watch it just because you look so good. Troy, you look so good, Troy. So
Troy,
thank you.
So
Thank you, Lydia.
And
all right. That's it for another episode. I'm Dave Stevens for Lydia, Troy, and wherever the hell Will is tonight. Continue to follow us, support us. Take care of America. Bye-bye.